Welcome to Whisperer Channel, the most terrifying food delivery stories on YouTube. If you're hungry for spine-tingling accounts that will make you question every meal, hit that subscribe button and like our videos. Dare to join us on this haunting journey into the darker side of food delivery, where your appetite for horror will only keep growing. So, you're not gonna believe this story, but I gotta share it. I worked at an old restaurant about 2 years ago. It's been there for years, like since my grandpa was a kid. When I started, strange things would happen from time to time, but everyone just said I'd get used to it. Sometimes we'd hear footsteps when no one was there. Stuff would fall off the shelves with nobody around. Once we found the freezer door wide open, even though I swear I'd just closed it. One night I was closing up after a long shift, and it happened. I saw it. In the reflection on the glass behind the counter, I saw a figure standing by the bar. I quickly spun, but nobody was there. Then, all the lights shut off. So I freaked out and ran to the back room. When I got there, I found the light switch broken off. Suddenly, I heard a blood-curdling scream. I knew it wasn't any of my coworkers. I wanted to leave so bad, but I had to find out what was happening. I decided to talk to the figure. Try to communicate with whatever it was. I asked, "Who are you? What do you want?" I didn't expect a response, but then I heard a whisper. It said, "Help me find peace." I was shaking like crazy, but I needed to know more. I had to finish the conversation. I asked what I could do to help. The voice said it had been there for years, unable to leave, and that its life ended in a tragic accident in the basement. Okay, so we had a basement most of us never went down to, like, ever. It was full of old stuff. But now I knew I had to go down there or I'd never be rid of this ghost. So I gathered my courage, grabbed a flashlight, and went down the stairs. The air was so cold I could see my breath, but I kept going. At the bottom of the stairs, I found an old newspaper article about a man who had died in a horrible accident while working at the restaurant. Guess what? He looked exactly like the figure I saw. So I knew I had to solve this. I went to the local library to look up more info about this guy. Turns out his name was Frank, and he'd been accidentally locked in the basement one night. Nobody could hear his screams, and eventually, he starved to death. The tragedy haunted the town for years afterward, with people saying they'd seen Frank's spirit wandering the restaurant. I knew I had to do something to help Frank find peace. So I decided to try something. I found where they buried him and brought his remains to the basement. With my heart pounding, I said, "Frank, I'm sorry for what happened to you, and I hope you can find peace. Here's your final resting place." I left his remains there and called a local psychic to help me do a sort of ritual to free his spirit. Surprisingly, they agreed to help me. We held a ceremony in the basement, wishing Frank peace and helping him move on. After we finished, the restaurant felt different, like lighter, if that makes sense. Things seemed to calm down after that. We stopped hearing those crazy noises, and nothing fell off the shelves anymore. And I haven't seen that figure ever since. Some people still won't believe me when I tell this story, but I know what I saw, and I know it's true. I just hope Frank is at peace now, and that no one ever has to experience something like that again. To this day, I still can't believe what happened, and I couldn't have made it up if I tried. Sometimes, when I pass by that old restaurant, I say a quiet word for Frank. It's just wild how a place you think you know so well can turn out to be something else entirely. This one time, man, it was crazy. Just the wildest thing ever. I used to work as a delivery driver for a small pizza place in town. Normally, our orders were just regular folks. The kind of people who are too lazy to cook. But this one time it was different. So, I was just doing my usual rounds when we got an order from some address way out in the woods. I thought it was strange, but it wasn't too unusual. So I figured it was some cabin or something. I was wrong. So, I took the delivery and started driving out to the address. It got darker and darker, and the whole time I had that feeling like something was watching me. Anyway, I got to the address, and it was just a creepy-looking cabin. It was pretty run down and surrounded by these really tall trees. But I had to do my job, so I walked up to the door with the pizza. I knocked a couple of times and waited, but nobody answered. I could hear noises inside, like chanting or something, and it was weird. I was getting freaked out after knocking a few more times. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and this guy was standing there in a dark robe. I was like, your pizza's here. And he just stared at me without saying anything. Then he gave me the money and took the pizza without even saying thanks or anything. On the way back, I got lost and ended up at this clearing where I saw more of those creepy cabins with more people in robes. So, I'm guessing there was some sort of, a cult or something. It was super weird, like something out of a horror movie. I got out of there as quick as I could. Anyway, this became a regular thing. They'd always order pizzas late at night, and always from these creepy cabins. I eventually started asking my coworkers about it, and they were all spooked too. We couldn't figure out what the deal was, but we didn't want to lose our jobs, so we kept making the deliveries. One night, while I was driving to the usual cabin, I got a flat tire due to some sharp rocks. I decided to change it quickly, but while I was doing it, I heard those noises again. I couldn't help it. I needed to know what was going on, so I left my car and I crept through the woods following the sounds. Finally, I saw a light up ahead, and I came across this big circle of people all wearing those dark robes. They were chanting and doing some sort of ritual around a large fire. I froze, like I couldn't even breathe. I didn't have a clue what they were up to, but it was pretty clear that my pizza deliveries were connected to this. I knew I had to get out of there, but the adrenaline was pumping, so I decided to take a video of what I witnessed. It was the only way anyone would believe me. As I was sneakily recording with my phone, they suddenly stopped their chanting, and everything went quiet. I panicked and realized they knew I was there. I turned around and sprinted back to my car as fast as possible, but when I got there, someone slashed my other tire. It was like they knew I was coming all along. At that point, I just started to run back towards the main road, leaving my car behind. I finally made it to the nearest gas station and called my boss to tell him what happened. He didn't really believe me until I showed him the video. After that, we decided to call the police and report the whole thing. The police went out there, and they managed to find the cabin and the people in the robes. It turns out they really were some sort of cult. The cops said they were doing some pretty messed up stuff out in those woods, and our pizza deliveries were part of their ritual. It still gives me chills thinking about it, man. I quit the delivery job after that, because I just couldn't handle it anymore. What people do in secret, it's scary. Every time I pass those woods, I still get the creeps. All I wanted was to deliver some pizzas, and I ended up in the middle of some horror movie. I swear I couldn't make this up if I tried. Man, I gotta tell you this freaky story that happened to me. You're not gonna believe it, but it's true. Like 100's true. I was working as a delivery driver, and one night everything just changed and messed me up real bad. So, it was your normal day, nothing out of the ordinary. I was doing my thing, driving up and down the streets, dropping off food. And then this one delivery came up. It was the last job of the night, and I just wanted to finish it and go home. I drove to the house, and it was in a part of town I'd never been to before. I don't know, it just felt off. The whole street was dark like no lights were on, and there weren't any cars or people around. But I had a job to do, so I got out and walked up to the door. I knocked, and I waited, and I just got that nasty feeling that something was watching me. I knocked again, and then the door slowly opened by itself. I couldn't see anyone inside, and it was super quiet. So, I called out, "Hello, your delivery's here," but no one answered. I started to feel really anxious, but I thought maybe they didn't hear me. So again, I said, "I have your food. Where do you want me to drop it?" And then, man, I saw it. There was this shadowy figure standing at the top of the stairs. I couldn't clearly see a face, just a dark silhouette. It said to just put the food down and leave. So, I did just that. I hurried out of there, because I couldn't shake the feeling that something wrong was going on. But man, it wasn't the end of it, like not even close. A couple of nights later, I started to have these crazy nightmares. I was back in that creepy house, and the figure was there, but now it was chasing me, calling my name, and it wouldn't stop. These nightmares kept happening, every single night. It was like I couldn't escape it. I stopped being able to sleep, started messing up at work. I was losing my mind. I thought I was just stressed out or something, like maybe I needed to take a break. So I took some time off work, and I tried to just forget about it. But one night, I was just lying in bed, trying to sleep, and I couldn't move. It was like something was holding me down, and I couldn't even scream for help. Then I saw it again, that shadowy figure. It was standing over me, and it started whispering something in my ear. I couldn't understand what it was saying at first, but then it became clear. It kept saying my name over and over. I finally broke free of the hold and screamed for my family to help. But when they came in, the figure was gone. They thought I was just going crazy and needed some help. I knew something more was going on, so I had to find out. I remembered the address from that night and decided to go back. I felt like if I could figure out what was going on, maybe I could end these nightmares. When I got there, the house was empty, like someone had just packed up and left. But then, I found a hidden room. And, man, that's when it all made sense. In that room, there was a bunch of crazy stuff all over the walls, and it was like someone had been obsessing over me. But that wasn't the scariest part. In the middle of the room, there was a picture of that creepy, shadowy figure I'd been seeing, and written below it was my birth date. I knew I had to find a way to end this, like, for real. So, I did some research on the house and found out that someone had died there a long time ago, right on that same day. I didn't want to mess with anything I didn't understand, but I felt like I had to try. I grabbed a few friends and we went back to the house. Luckily, they believed me. We all did a cleansing thing to try and get rid of the negative vibes, like using salt and stuff. And man, I think it worked. The crazy nightmares stopped. I wasn't scared of that shadowy figure anymore. I felt like I was finally free from it. I still can't shake what happened, though. Every time I pass that house, I remember that terrible time and how it almost broke me. I think about how lucky I am that I was able to escape that darkness. Man, it's hard to believe that such crazy things can happen, but I promise you it's true. And now that it's over, I can finally get some sleep. And for making it to the end of this terrifying tale. As we continue to refine our storytelling style, your feedback is extremely important to us. If you enjoyed the content, please like, subscribe, and take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Let us know what aspects you liked and what didn't quite hit the mark. We'd also love to hear your suggestions for upcoming scary stories. You can even vote for the comments suggesting an idea that resonates with you the most. Remember, we create these spine-tingling tales based on your requests, so don't hesitate to share your spookiest ideas with us.